Hey gang, Jake here. Indie games have a rich depth of characters to pull from for representation in a fighting game. So rich, in fact, that it's insanely difficult to cover a comprehensive amount of ground with any single roster. I feel that's why the assist system that's in Fraymakers is so cool. Not only does it allow the game to feature a broad depth of characters in games, it also means that they can be represented in a way that feels unique and properly embodies the gameplay of the games they come from. However, I'm not the only one who's got a ridiculous amount of ideas for this. Here to assist me, the biggest SSF2 YouTuber so far, Bowler.
Hey everyone, Bowler here with this collab on Jake's channel, and yeah, I want to talk about some of my personal favorite picks for assists and Fraymakers. There's a lot of factors to consider when, suggesting an assist. You want to have like a cool reference to the game, some variety in like the play style of it, something original. And I think the ones I've chosen are pretty cool assist ideas, and I think you'll like them. But without further ado, let's get right into it.
Hardcore Mecca is a tribute to the mecha genre in which the player takes the role of Tarather, a mercenary and mecha pilot that pilots the Thunderbolt, a powerful mecha with powerful secrets. It's a really fun game, and it deserves representation, but a playable role is tougher than it may seem. For one, the Thunderbolt itself is massive, way too big to be a regular fighter. And Tarather, while he has some basic combat experience, is nowhere near keeping up with the rest of the roster. As such, I think the assist is the best role for these two to play. Essentially, the way it'd work is that upon activation, the Thunderbolt would fly on stage opposite the player, then slam a massive shield down, burying any opponents that are hit by it.
I went with Claren from Rivals of Aether. One of the most iconic characters from the game, and personally one of my favorite design-wise. She would be a very cool assist to have in the game, representing the Rivals of Aether series. Since we already have Orcane as a playable character, it only makes sense to have an assist for the game. And I think it'd be really cool to have her use her down special, the sort of force field attack, as a way to reflect or even just block projectiles. It'd be the first assist to be sort of like an anti-zoner assist, and I don't think it'd be too overpowered. I think it'd be really cool. But yeah, I would love to see Claren in Fraymakers, reflecting all those projectiles. I think it'd be really cool.
So in Dust and Elysian Tale, Fidget is a companion character that combines magic with Dust's strongest move in order to create storms of fire and lightning. She's a super useful tool, and she'd serve a similar function in this game, although the method would have to be vastly different. She'd fire a slow homing shot at all enemies, and if it connects normally, it'd deal minimal damage with a little bit of knockback, nothing to be concerned about. However, if you could time a smash attack to hit the opponent simultaneously, you'd cause a massive explosion, dealing tons of damage and knocking them way the hell off screen.
My next pick is an interesting one. It is Huntress from Risk of Rain 2. Risk of Rain 2 is such an underrated gem, a great indie game. If you've played it, you know what I mean. In my opinion, one of the most iconic while also being interesting character designs in Risk of Rain. I imagine that she would work similarly to almost like Pit's neutral B in Smash Brothers, where she shoots her bow and arrow 3 times, probably some delay between the shots so it's not too oppressive. And I also think it'd be really cool if they had homing similar to in-game. Maybe not 100% homing where it's impossible to dodge, but just like, slightly curved towards it. Sort of like Waluigi's side B in SSF2. So she'd shoot 3 arrows and they would home towards the opponent. Be pretty cool.
So in case you haven't heard of it, which seems likely, Spirit Sphere is a pretty sick game of fantasy 2D tennis, and it's got a lot of replay value that makes it worth playing. Like most games involving volleying, a lot of the fun comes from tucking and weaving to keep the pressure on your opponent, as well as ensure that you're safe. That'd come through in this assist, in which the two sisters would start a volley on screen, passing the sphere back and forth. This sphere could damage opponents, but players could also interact with it, which means if the opponent sends it back your way, you could take some serious damage.
Guy Spelunky, the main character in the Spelunky series, is an iconic indie character. There's a lot of cool ways you could make the Spelunky character into an assist, although I think it'd be most interesting to have him use his bombs, sort of like Bomberman almost, where when he's walking across the level, he'll place bombs behind him that will detonate after a little bit of a short delay. I even imagine maybe you could add in like the whip mechanic too, since it's one of the iconic moves in Spelunky. So maybe if the opponent walks in front of him while he's dropping the bombs, he'll use his whip attack. Overall, I think it'd be a great addition, and Spelunky definitely needs some representation. It's one of the greatest indie games in my opinion.
So in Dragon Marked for Death, the witch's main gimmick is being relatively weak in most departments, but having powerful spells to conjure if given enough time by the rest of the party. As such, when summoned to battle, she'd set to work on preparing a powerful attack, but be left totally vulnerable. This would shift your priority from just fighting the opponent to defending the witch. She'd be interrupted by each attack, and after taking about 40% damage, she'd retreat. But given enough time, she'd fire off a massive magic blast that's essentially an instant kill.
Next, I wanted to see a character from the Nidhogg series. This is an old school indie game and one of my personal favorites when I was younger, so I'd love to see the Yellow Fencer as a assist from the game. And I imagine it'd be kind of hard to make him work in Fraymakers, but it'd be really cool if maybe like he has a really small hitbox on his sword, but after he stabs forward, if he does hit you, it has a ton of knockback. Similar to how like in-game it's an instant kill, inside Fraymakers it would just do a lot of knockback. Not really an instant kill, it'd be too overpowered obviously.
So Katana Zero's main gimmick is that the main character can kill anyone in one shot, but can thusly also be killed in one shot. As such, deflecting projectiles is essential to survival. When used as an assist, Zero would stay side by side with the player, automatically deflecting projectiles for a limited time. However, during that time, he'd also help out with smash attacks, causing them to essentially crit. If he's hit with a physical attack during this time though, he's done.
Propeller Knight from Shovel Knight. If you know me, you know I love Shovel Knight, and I've already talked about how I personally want Spectre Knight as a playable character in a previous video, but I also think it'd be really cool to have maybe a Propeller Knight assist. He's one of the most unique characters in Shovel Knight, and I think there's a lot of cool ways you could do an assist. You could either have him work as like almost a recovery assist, where he blows air upwards and you can recover as a momentum boost, or if you use him on stage, maybe he could just push people off. Sort of like that Smash 4 item where you just kind of like do a gust of wind and blow him off. I think he'd be a cool win box character basically, you know, not too overpowered, very unique. It'd be fun to have him.
So Unbeatable is slightly very difficult to implement to a game like this, since none of the characters have much in terms of moveset potential to pull from. However, I think pulling inspiration from some people's concepts for Cadence could be really cool. When activated, Beat in the Band would start to play proper rhythm, overtaking the music for a limited time. During this time, a bar would appear above your character, indicating notes to hit and when to hit them. When attacks are landed in sync with this bar and the song, they'd be powered up significantly, but due to the complex nature of the buff, the player would have to struggle to land stronger attacks.
And lastly, I had to include this because I love this game so much. We need to have at least something from Emory in Fraymakers. So I went with Emory from Emory as a playable assist. I think it'd be really cool to have him. He could be a generic assist and just do knife attacks, but I think it'd be really cool to have him actually use his in-game status buffs that are angry, happy, and sad. It'd be sort of like the Shulk Monado arts. If you get angry, you'll deal more knockback but also take more knockback. If you get the sad buff, you would take less percent but you'd also move slower. And if you got the happy buff, you would move faster but deal less percent. It'd be a really cool way to translate those in-game status effects into Fraymakers, and it'd be one of the most unique assists in the game. So I would love to see Emory. I think it'd be so cool.
And that's about it. I think thought exercises like this really show the broad possibilities of this concept, and I'm super excited to see it built upon in the main game.
But yeah, overall we're seeing some really creative assists in game. I'm very excited for the future of assists in Fraymakers. There's a lot of really cool avenues they haven't gone for yet, so hopefully they don't run out of ideas. But that's about it for the video. Thank you all for watching so much. If you have enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing to this channel. And if you're interested in Super Smash Flash 2, check out my channel as well, which I'll also be doing Fraymakers when that game comes out. But yeah, that's about it. See you guys later.